I'm Steve Kosiba. I'm a partner in Squeek Lights, and I also just do, I don't know, I'm the one who figures out all the dumb technical stuff at Squeek Lights. And I also do a lot of the, I guess you could call it back-end programming for Dave Summers. So a lot of the presets, and in particular with the lasers, I programmed all the presets for the Mercury stuff that's used in the AVR show. In middle school, I didn't want to be on stage. So I was like, okay, well, I'll flip the light switches on the side of the stage. And then very shortly after that, I started to actually get into lighting. In 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I did lights and/or sound for like there was a school musical every year. I did that, and then in high school there was a massive void of experience and desire to do anything, and there was just one drama teacher, and she, taught me everything she knew, which wasn't much, and then was just kind of like, hey, here's some money every year to make things a little bit better because you seem to know more than me. And so I just started figuring it out, and then got to college and started to figure out moving lights, and yeah, and then once I left college, I looked around for a little while and decided I wanted to work for an event company, and I very much call that grad school because that's when I started to figure out all the ins and outs of the business that I ended up really going into, which is concerts and events. So before starting using Mercury, I had a limited experience with lasers, but that was because the experiences I had were so bad. I think my first experience programming lasers on a lighting system, other than just some of the little like DJ effect type stuff, I think the first one was with, I guess it was kind of a DJ product. It was an xlaser product, but it was a very old one. There was a little 700 milliwatt system that the company I was working for sold 2 of them to a venue that had mirrors on most of the walls, and so we had to just kind of shoot them up into the voids of the ceiling, and it didn't look too hot, and it was really hard to program, and I didn't like taking DMX, and it was really frustrating. And then the next thing was 2 10s and a 20 watt, and those were I think those were xlaser projectors, but they had other control in the back of them, and they showed up with no content loaded. There was an SD card in there, and when I called up the control provider, they told me that I had to find, download, and install all my own content. And pick what you want. Nothing was in there. And then, in order to get it to work with ArtNet, this is messed up. In order to get it to work with ArtNet, you had to constantly have ArtNet data changing on the stream. So if you just put it into a static queue, the laser would turn off. And that turned out to be a fluke of the control module in the back, where if I just patched a dimmer channel into address 512 and put an effect on it, the laser would stay on. It wasn't a control value that the laser was using, but if there was some ArtNet data changing on that universe, we were good. And I was like, this makes no sense at all. It's really frustrating. And I had to train on this system because back then I was doing a lot more system trainings. And so I had to show the end client how to use this stuff. And it was really frustrating. I have to be like, yeah, you got to activate this effect if you ever want to use your lasers from the MA.
Right.
And then at Squeek Lights for a while, there were a couple bands that had asked us about lasers, and finally August Burns Red was like, look, we really want lasers, we really need you to get some lasers. And so we reached out to xlaser, reached out to Adam again, and xlaser had just come out with the Mercury stuff. And we had Adam bring up a sample, and we couldn't stop messing around with it. I cannot properly explain how much of a complete 180 my opinion went on lasers in no time at all.
Yeah.
It was the ability to take it and control all the different parts of it actually like a lighting fixture. Blew my mind. I think we sat there playing with it till like 7 p.m. Like we were there all day, and then we just wouldn't leave. Me and I think 2 of the other LDs, we just we were just there messing around with it because it was too fun. We couldn't stop, and that it was a complete 180 on my opinion on lasers in one day. And what obviously I'd had all these experiences with the control issues and whatnot, but just other than that, when I had used other control systems, it was more like a media server. You can play back your clip. That clip is what it is. You can affect your clip, but okay, you can make the whole thing be this color or whatever, but you can't really make your own content via the lighting desk. It's got to be, if you want your own content, you got to make content in the software and then import that back into laser, and then that's that's not how Mercury works. You can just you can layer stuff. So you can take a single line and then throw a cone on top of it, spin the cone. The cone has a certain number of points, run a color effect on the cone, run a radial, you can just do so much, the kind of stuff that you cannot do on any other system, no matter how much they try to convince you that you can. You can't make the kind of cues you can make in Mercury in no time at all once you get a good set of presets.
And you've made some killer show files, the stuff you've made for Dave all the time.
Yeah, I mean, so when we got the lasers, I was tasked with making them accessible to Dave, who I think this was 3-4 years ago. It was a while ago. I think it was 3 years. I think it was summer 2019 or something like that. So over 3 years ago, or no, about 3 years ago. So in summer 2019, I had to make the show file, or not show file. I had to make the presets for the lasers for Dave to make it accessible, because honestly, stepping up to this thing, it can be a little daunting to start using Mercury for the first time, just because there's so many options. And so I had to distill that down to, okay, here's all your color presets, here's all your groups, here's your color A, your color B, your main part of the builder. Here's a selection. I think I picked 40 or 50 gobos from the library, just be okay, here's to, get started. The different motion effects, sizes of motion effects, and speeds of motion effects, those each have their sets of presets. And this was in, I forget if it was Onyx back then, but it's Onyx now, the Lation Obsidian Onyx software. And with that, it is insanely easy to affect a single parameter. So you can take something like effect size and then put an effect on effect size, and then you have a changing height of your effect, or effect speed. You can have it go faster and slower, or really X size, Y size, anything. And that's one of the things I like about working with Mercury on Onyx, is just how quickly you can get some insanely dynamic looks just by affecting a single parameter and fanning that out. But with Mercury, you can have 6 fixtures or 8 fixtures now, after I asked for it, coming out of one laser. And they're all treated like different fixtures, and you have 3 different parts of that. You have the main, you have color A, you have color B, and then you can put an effect on a single parameter. And so just coming out of 4 lasers, you've got 24 different fixtures that you can put an effect on, and you can make some insanely dynamic looks out of these things that are just absolutely mind-blowing.
It is, and it's Onyx was the first software I used here, and it was just so easy to me because I'm used to theater. It's so easy.
I have been teaching people how to program on lighting desks, honestly, since high school, but more deeply since college. And especially, that was one of the things that I did at my first job out of college, was train people how to program lighting desks, whether it was in the shop or in my later time there out in the field. I did some system trainings. I did, and at Squeek Lights, I have been the one often who I'll train people up on Onyx, or I'll give people a refresher course in anything. I love teaching so much. It makes me happy. But in all my time teaching lighting desks, Onyx is the easiest software I have ever taught people on. The only thing that programmers from other systems get hung up on for a little bit is the effects, But anybody coming in fresh, never programmed on MA or Hog or Ava or anything else, anybody coming in fresh sees how Onyx handles effects, and they just love it.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to use. And yeah, you can't, partial show read this, that, and the other thing, and clone, individual instances per queue list like you can on an MA, but there's a lot of things that an MA can do that no other desk can do. Mm-hmm. And I, given the other systems out there, I personally really like how Onyx handles a lot of things, really. I mean, speaking to the effects, I actually have a preset in my intensity group, in my color group, and in my position group that all it does is kills the effects for that group. So there's a PTFX kill, and that kills only the size of the effect for the pan and the tilt. I have one for intensity. It kills only the size of the intensity for that group. And the way that's really cool is when you're programming a cue list for a song, and you're time coding it out, or even if you're not time coding it out, if you want to bring that effect back in, let's say you're doing an effect for a chorus, right? So you get to the end of the chorus, you need to turn the effect off. All you do is you hit that kill preset. And then when you get to the next chorus, all you do is turn the size back up. And the effect fades in super gracefully. And yeah, there's ways to do that on other systems, but like I said, I just really like how Onyx handles it. One of the things that I really like about dealing with lighting desks is that you can do effects across individual elements. And with 8 builders and a 2-dot gobo, I can make a line of 16 dots with a single fixture. Do a hard vertical pre-color effect. Make them the same color. Make both colors be the same color. And then grab my color parts, color AB, color AB, 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 across the whole line in the right order, and have an intensity or color effect move gracefully across all 16 dots. And just the ability to do stuff like that. And that's 16 points coming out of one fixture that you have individual control over in your lighting software. But as far as that, I also helped get the profile for Onyx working, because there were when we originally made the library request, there were just some issues with the profile, and so I sat down and worked through some of that, and then also made some suggestions to Adam and the team to be like, here's some other stuff you can do. And really, it's, I don't know, there wasn't much to improve on to begin with, just because it's so good. But just getting the Onyx profile up to snuff and getting all of the parts working, just because it's such a complex fixture type to control. Yeah, I did some of that, and then I also was very, very relentless in my request for more builders, more basic builders, because I think you can theoretically fit 18 of them in a universe. I want an option to do 18. I think theoretically, I don't know if the computer can handle it, I think theoretically you can fit 18 basic builders in a universe. I want 18 basic builders, because then I can take 18 individual dots or small cones, something very basic and small, and then add a position effect to all of those individually. Add an intensity effect to all of those individually. But here's the other thing, though. With Mercury, you can get these ridiculously insane looks just with 2 or 3 builders.
Right, yeah.
One of the looks that I really like and I've used, and I've also seen Dave use a bunch. First, you take a big, wide flat line. You take the flat line, the long flat line gobo, you make it as wide as it can be. Doesn't matter how tall it is, because it's not going to get very tall. And then you pick 1 or 2 other builders, and you do something like, you could put like there's a cone that has like, I think 6 or 8 points around the outside, and you can take that, you rotate it, or you get 2 of those, you rotate them opposite directions, and then you have them moving back and forth within the same plane as the line, or just above it, or just below it. You have, for instance, you put the line in like red, and you put the cones in cyan or white or something like that, or do like, you know, do whatever. Get yourself two colors that are just on the opposite side of the color wheels you can get, because that's going to really help the separation. You know, magenta and green is a great one, but that's just 3 builders, and then, you know, maybe you put a very light sine wave motion effect, like an extra light sine wave motion effect on the line itself, and then you've got this very light moving line with, you know, 2 spinning cones moving on top of it, and you've created this incredibly dynamic laser cue with the preset page I've made in Onyx. I think you can make that cue in probably about 90 seconds.
Yeah, right.
And let's say a lighting designer came up with that, you know, came up with that idea in their head in another laser control platform. You would need to go back to your laser guy, get him to make a laser cue, or if you are the laser guy, go back and into the software for that laser, make that laser cue, upload that back to the laser, or if you're triggering your laser software through the MA, you would just, you know, trigger it from that. But still, you're generally a couple more steps away than just going builder, line, wide, color, effect size, effect speed, X light and slow, and then 2 other builders, cone, rotate, grab the other builder, rotate the opposite direction, because I have both directions of rotate presets, and then grab both of those again. I'm just going through my whole workflow.
It's just so
set the size, and then with those 2 builders grabbed in Onyx, it would be, let's say it's for 4 lasers, block 4, and then just do a simple pan effect.
Done.
Spread per 2.
Easy.
And like it's, you're done. And that's how long it takes to make it. And that's what's really hard to get across, is just after you've really dialed in your presets for Onyx, you can just make fresh new content on the fly.
Yeah.
Like it's just absolutely insane how easy it is, and how powerful it is, and how ridiculously awesome the looks are. There's nothing that looks like a laser. It's a way to set your show apart, and it's a way that is just lasers in general. It's a like I said, it's an incredibly distinctive look, and there's nothing else like it, and it gets people excited. Like that's the lasers turn on in an ABR show, you can hear the crowd reaction. Like there is an audible gasp from the crowd when some of the cooler laser cues come on in an ABR show. Like there's I think there was, when I was just at the last tour, I went to 2 shows of it. There is, if I remember right, it's at the top or the bridge of Pangea, when there's this insane like green and blue cue that comes on in a quieter moment. Like I think it's at the top of the song, and it just, you can hear this gasp from the crowd, and you don't get that gasp in the same way with lighting looks usually.
Yeah.
It's completely different, and it's just a completely unique look, and that's something that you don't get with any other product, because lasers are lasers. We weren't really interested in lasers for a number of reasons, but one of those reasons was we were worried about the variance process. We were worried about but also the New York laws, but we managed to find a guy to, I mean, you can, in New York, you can just hire a LSO to come monitor your show, but as far as the variance process, like we were worried about that, and xlaser just made it super easy. Just the way they handled the variance process made that part of it much less of a hurdle to overcome. Anytime that I can just go off about how awesome Mercury is, I do, and I know that there's some people that can attest to this. They'll go, he's said it too many times, he needs to stop. Just once you figure out all the aspects of the fixture profile and how it works, which, like I said, can take a minute. Once you figure that out, there's no limits to what you can do with this software. And at the same time, xlaser as a company is there to take care of you much better than a lot of other laser companies out there. They actually want you to be out there using their stuff rather than dealing with making it work in a way that just really let us get into it a lot faster than we would have been able to otherwise. This actually, one of the things I was worried about with lasers, actually, that I hadn't even thought about is color. Because when you're working with some of these other control systems, you have a hue channel, and it simply goes from red through yellow through green through cyan through blue through magenta back to red, and you don't get any of your midtones. You can't just mix red, green, and blue. And on the Mercury units, you can just mix red, green, and blue. I can get CTO lasers. I can get light lime lasers. I can get pale lavender lasers, and it's so insanely sick.
They're so
like
pretty. Pastels are
the
so pretty.
colors that you get out of these things that are the pastels and the midtones, just like I can make peach on these lasers, and it looks so good. But at the same time, because it's an additive mixing fixture, you get obviously your incredible primary red, your incredible primary green, your incredible primary blue, but it can switch back and forth between those pretty effortlessly. Yeah, and it's just the intensity of even a color like a pale lavender or something like that. The vibrancy of it is just nuts with these fixtures. And we only have the 5 watters. When we had the 20 watter in the shop for demo, it was like, oh, okay now. So we only, at this point, we're only doing the basic zoning via DMX. But it's just so ridiculously simple. We did this Kamala Harris rally just a couple days before the election down in Philly, and Adam actually made us some custom content for that, and he brought out the 20 watter because he came up from Maryland. We came down from Jersey to Philly. It was at Citizens Bank Park. Just with a static Liberty Bell and a basic 5-point star gobo. I put the Liberty Bell in the middle with, I think that was the 20, with the 20 watter, and had it, because Onyx is so stupidly easy to make effects with, I just gave it a tiny little bit of rock in the rotation. So we had a little bit of rocking happening with the Liberty Bell, and then I took the star gobo, did 2 builders per fixture. I did 2 white stars, 2 red stars, 2 blue stars, and I had 6 elements going around the 6 star gobos going around the swinging Liberty Bell. And just how easy that was to make with Mercury. Like, I just put them all in the same location. I widened out my size for a circle for the stars, and I changed the color per star, and then to set the rotation rock on the Liberty Bell. And it was just crazy easy. Like, there was nothing to it. And we had to zone in kind of like half daylight. It was cloudy, it was getting later, but like we had to zone up on the, I think it was like the back of the scoreboard or something like that, whatever, large rectangular surface. But we were a long ways away from it. And to zone it, I just sighted up the corner of each laser. I just looked along the corner of the laser, lined it up to there, and I had 4 projectors. I had the 20 that and brought 3 of our 10s. I think that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. And I just manually looked up the corner of the unit, lined them up at there, reduced the size on the desk to almost 0 in both X and Y, turned them on. They were all almost right on. Nice. And then we just, because this was such a long throw, I just reached up and manually tweaked the fixtures a smidge. I think they were double clamped, so there wasn't much movement, but I just racked them a little bit, and then on the desk did the pan and tilt movement, as it were, the X and Y movement of the master fixture for each fixture. Line those up, and then just open the X and Y up to where it needed to be, and there we go. Done. And then you park your master fixture, and you're good to go. And the same thing goes for how we have them zoned day to day on tour. Like for August Burns Red, Dave just goes in, he goes, well, I need to avoid the mirror ball, the projector, these people, and this security camera over here. And, has them pointed generally in the area he wants, reduces the size, turns them on at a low intensity, gets the size out to, yeah, it doesn't look like we're hitting any of that stuff. Set it to full, park it, good to go.
Awesome.
And it just, I am excited to get into the zoning you have to do through Accelerate. The one where we will then be able to select, have a zone above the audience, have a zone on the balcony. Those kinds of things I'm definitely looking forward to getting into, but at this point we're just doing one zone per fixture.
Right.
Very basic DMX zoning, and it's just once you do it once or twice, we've taught people how to do it in a matter of minutes. And sometimes I need a refresher, but it's so insanely simple to do right from the desk. You just park your fixture, you're good to go. As far as the build quality units, it's insanely good. They're just incredibly robust, and I love how beefy the heat sinks are on top, but also the yokes are very sturdy, and that's very important for something like a laser. But also as far as physical, I guess at this point I'll talk for our 5-watt units, you can true one daisy chain 10 of these things together. And so you then have 10 5-watt lasers on one 20 amp circuit, and that kind of effects output per power you don't get with any lighting fixture. You just don't get it. And the having true one in and out on the back, having network in and out on the back, and the interface is super easy to use. Everything is laid out such that it makes sense. You want to deal with your anything in there. It's just the menu is so logically laid out in a way that even some lighting fixtures are not. You just go in there. You're like, okay, I want to, you want to set your network. It's painfully obvious where you need to go to deal with your IP address and your subnet and all of this stuff. And you want to go, okay, you want to be using SACN. You want to pick your unit. It's all very, very easy to get to. And for getting people interested in using these that don't necessarily have any laser experience, that's super critical, because you need to be able to troubleshoot it blind over the phone. And with the menu structure in the back of the Mercury systems, it's just super easy to be able to get anything that I need to. Okay, well, change the universe to be able to troubleshoot if it's the projector or the control. It's all incredibly easy to direct someone to get to when it's laid out as simply as it is on there. As far as the display goes, my favorite thing about these things for troubleshooting, it tells you what the issue is. It tells you if there's no data. It tells you if you need to turn a key. It tells you if you need to hit the e-stop button. It's all right there on the back of the unit. It will tell you what you need to do, instead of just you wondering which part of your interconnect system might not necessarily be good at the moment. And to that point, the interconnect system is also the network connection system. So out at front of house, we just have a network switch sitting there. One output of the network switch feeds the node that controls the light rig, and the other side of the network switch just goes into the network port of the e-stop, and then it feeds that data and the e-stop down over our network snake to stage, and it's that easy. And that's fantastic. It's also very useful that I know that there's not a lot of key switches out there, but you picked one with an A126 key, which you can get just about anywhere. Not really anywhere, but anywhere. So that's incredibly handy as well. Shining them at the audience. Yeah, I mean, most of the things that I consider limitations, so one thing, obviously, it would be amazing to have insanely higher scan rates and just be able to do massive patterns that you really just can't do on any laser. But the other thing is really just is only a limitation I've imposed on myself. I need to figure out how to do the zoning and Accelerate and be able to teach that so that we can have multi-zone systems out on the road, be able to have a high zone and a balcony zone and a deck zone all out of the same unit. That's just something that we need to learn and train and then properly implement in the rigs we send out. But that's already provided. I just need to figure it out. I mean, it's just cutting through. Like you don't get, obviously you're not going to get a nice breakup look out of a laser, but you're going to get insane aerial effects out of a laser. And for, certain applications, that's what you need. But also at the same time, as far as other things you can use it for, we did the custom graphics for that political rally in Philly. with an incredibly short turnaround time. There was no custom gobo ordering. There was no getting a projector that weighs as much as a small vehicle out there to try to get maybe enough output for the thing to maybe read. It read on camera. And it read on camera with little effort. Like, we had 4 projectors. We did some cool, get out the vote type graphics. I had a cool Philly Liberty Bell in the custom graphics set, and then just a couple other things. And we were able to make some really quick effects and stuff that just, you can't do that with a lighting fixture, and you can't get that kind of output with a projector. And also, I just think the content popped better with a laser than it would have with a projector. So in addition to the insanely sick aerials and small size for output that you're getting on a tour, you have the custom graphics applications that are very, very powerful. I really think that every lighting designer out there in concerts and events needs to get their hands on this system and needs to try it out for themselves so that they can see the kind of stuff it can do for them, because it is a completely different model of controlling and using lasers from anything you've used before, anything currently on the market, and you're going to be able to do some awesome stuff with it. Squeek Lights is a full-service concert touring lighting company. We will do everything from rent you a couple of static fixtures to provide a fully staffed concert tour. And we have LDs on staff, but also at the same time, like, our big thing has been when LDs come to us and we are able to get them into a lighting package that they didn't think they'd be able to get into for their budget. But also, we have found a real niche doing a lot of one-offs in the city. And so we now have a van, and so whenever certain clients are in the area, we'll just take lights into the city for them. And so we do everything from renting you a case of lights to doing a full service tour, and being able to put lasers on those is really sick.